Hey, and what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a GOFLIGHT Interface Tool tutorial getting started series, if that's even a worthy title. Basically, this is going to be a 3 to 5 part series on basically getting started with everything that you're going to need to know. If you have GOFLIGHT instruments, if you have GOFLIGHT, any of their panels, any of their modules, this for the most part will really set everything up, at least when it comes to switches and knobs and three-ways and selectors. And we're going to kind of start looking at all these to give you guys a heads up and just how to do it. Now I cannot do them for you because my plane setups are different than anybody else's. I've got mine's to certain things. I'm not going to be in the business of, hey, can you whoop me up a RP48 panel with something. Now, I want to give you guys the information and then allow you. I'm giving back to the community. Everything that I've learned off of X-Plane, I've learned because someone else before me provided information to teach me how to do it. And that's really how X-Plane, it's how really a lot of the things have always progressed with X-Plane. It's because someone else was willing to show the next guy how to do it. And maybe in hopes that they would share knowledge that they come across and be able to share that with the community as well. And just be able to make this round ball of X-Plane literally go revolve. So here we go. Let's break into first video. Here is going to be basically just let's get started with the tool. Let's get installed. Let's get some directories and some organizational folders up and get them in place so that once we really starting to dive into this thing, all of our folders, all of our saves, all of our profiles, everything's go into their own filing cabinet so that when you go to pull these things up, or in case you have a problem, it's like, oh, well, I know where that's at. We just, boom, we go there and here we are. So let's first look at what I have. And you can kind of see I have really a plethora of stuff that really fits inside of the pedestal. The thing you want to concentrate on with GOFLIGHT stuff, you have to make a decision. GOFLIGHT is a great entry into the cockpit builders world, which is where I'm at. I would love one day, I would love to have a single seat trainer and have a half pedestal base with the CDU, a glare shield. The overhead, I don't even care if I have the overhead. That doesn't even matter to me. That's usually pretty expensive, and it's a little bit. But being able to compile all the computers and and purchase the stuff is like purchasing a small used car. So, this is a great entry point. You want to know how much did all this cost? I don't normally like to say this just because I don't like to come across as I'm bragging, but it is an investment. The computer was an investment. It's top of the line as of right now. We're January 16th, 2018. As of right now, I'm doing my display is just one 32-inch monitor, and then I have a secondary monitor that has all my stream stuff, my charts, all of my more functional things there to do with X-Plane live stream. I'm just limited by space right now as to how much and how wide this thing can go. But as it grows, I would love to one day be able to have a single seat small trainer that has all of the glare shield and has all of the the amenities of a pedestal base with your trims and your radios, and then have the glare shield with autopilot and all those necessary stuff. But as for having this huge complete encased 737 around me, nah, I don't think I'll ever be to that point. I love it, but I don't know that I love it that much. So anyway, let me show you what I have, and then hopefully these match up with some of yours. Sorry for the shaky quality here. This is just my webcam that I use for my face, so it's not like a DSLR or anything. I just didn't have the time to put all this editing together, so I want to get this video out and get it out ASAP. So we've got the MCP Pro here, which is the autopilot. Here, this is a replica of a 737. Now, before this, we also have the LGT2. Now, this is the landing gear trim system from GOFLIGHT. Now, it does have the, as you can see there in the plane in the foreground, or the background, I should say. Flip that up, there goes the switch. It does have a middle selector, although this plane will do it automatically. But I do have this set on the 738 to be the middle selector, and then you pull it down, and there it goes. So you've got that. You've also got your flap control here as things happen. I decided to put it here on the detemp knob. It's just a selector back and forth. rather than put it here on this. I'll explain that and get into that a little bit later. Other than that, you've got rotor trim, elevator, and aileron trim. It's a pretty nice little setup here. Plus, you've got, this could be engine selectors. It could be, I mean, anything that has a toggle back and forth. So if you want to do something on the left side versus do something on the right side, that's a good switch to have there. As you can see, we do have it set to something, which we'll get into a little bit later. Now we've got the RP48. This right here is a it's a generic, so it can be anything you want. It's not really modeled after everything except an EFIS panel. That's what this is closely resembled. Cool thing about this is it's a little bit easier to code than say the EFIS, and it's cheaper than the EFIS unit that GOFLIGHT sells right now. I think it's like $260, and this is like 130 something, I think. But it's got 4 rotaries that all have, you know, turn left and right. Then you have 8 push buttons that all have programmable lights. Buttons and rotaries are all programmed. So all 3 of them rely on information from different sources. Then we've got the TQ6, which is just the now this is the upgraded one. The one that they have now is the advanced version, has the 737 looking handles with the toga power and the autopilot disconnect. This does not have that, but you can take these out and you could plug in the other ones that would make this look like a multi-engine. So you could have, you know, 2 of the black knobs here for throttle knobs. Then you could have 2 prop controls, which are the blue ones, and then you would have 2 of the mixture controls over here. So you'd have 2, 2, and 2, and you can set those out and set them as a profile in X-Plane now. I think X-Plane 0.11 brought in new profiles for all of your stuff, which is absolutely awesome. They should have had that a long time ago, but at least they're finally joining the 21st century of flight sims. Then we've got just a simple T8. This is just a toggle off and on. It just goes off and on depending on whichever way you want to switch it. Then we've got another RP48, which is the same thing. So I've got both of these are going different places. They're both doing different things. I actually just got done cleaning up some of my cables, so I don't have some of my my bolts and stuff in. So don't like, oh my God, you don't have your bolts in. Yeah, I forgot to put the other 3 in. Okay. COM1, COM2, NAV1, and then NAV2. So each one of these are, I bought this panel as itself when I was buying the custom stuff. So it is one single panel with 4 modules attached to the back of it. If you buy these singly, these are really nothing but GF40 146 or 166s. And they come basically split in the middle here, about where my finger's at. There's like a, you know, there's the silver plate, and they've got 1 screw in the center, and then they've got still the same set of buttons, but you can still do COM 1 and 2. So don't think, if you don't like having the all 4 up, and you say, well, I never use NAV2, I never use COM 2, so it's not a big deal. I use COM 2 to get my ADISs while I'm still have COM 1 available. So that's you know, but you still can. See, right there's COM, get a little closer so you can see. There's COM 2 right there as it focuses in. So here's COM 1. And you see all the numbers change there. So 119.42, and then we go over to COM 2, and we're at 119.67. So yeah, those are the two deals. Nav 1s and 2s work the same exact way. So I can look at Nav 1 and then look at Nav 2. Same way with this one. But if you do switch them, they're all independent of one another. So as you turn here, do things here, switch them over, they're independent of one another. And then you've got the transponder. I have not personally done the transponder yet. It's still kind of empty just because I've gotten everything else up into there, and I've just really honestly have not figured out what to set it to. And I know that sounds stupid, but I haven't. I've been a little bit just like wow, what set is that? So I know that sounds a little weird, but that's just how it is. Sometimes I don't know that the things I have functionality wise are really what I want there. So before I break into trying to do all this, fancy fun stuff with it, I'm like, well, let's find out and let's figure out exactly what I want to do before we get to that point. So let's minimize that because we've already got our other one up here on our main control that we're going to be looking at as we get started with this. So let's do this. We are in the 767. Now you may say, well, why are you in this plane versus a 737 or whatever the case may be? One part about this plane in particular is that it is a custom plane. It is a very popular plane. 757 is identical to this one from a code perspective. So once you've done one, you've done 4 planes. If you bought the professional, you've got a 752, you've got a 753, you've got the freighter version, because all 3 of those planes are the same plane. They just have different references to the numbers, to the data. But the data refs and the assignments to all the controls and everything from their plugin and from everything that they've set up here within their model, it's all the same. So you essentially have 3 models when you buy the 757, and you get one working. All the other 2s will work. Well, at least within reason. There's some file renaming, which I can point you to where the support forum stuff is, that you can get your answers on that. And then the 767 is essentially the same, but it is a new plane, but it's identical. Except you may want to do, and I've actually done some different things with the 7.6 that I keep separate from the 7.5, just because you may utilize or you may pay attention to them more here in the 7.6. And somewhat it was more of a competition to see which one I knew from the 7.57 versus the 7.6, which setup that I used more buttons. Because here's the thing. Do not get stuck. If you have a base, or if you're looking at getting something like this, buy things that you are going to use all the time. Do not go buy some random panel that you're going to flip one switch and you're never going to touch it again in X-Plane. You know, that's the thing that gets me. The one that I actually came with this was a tilt base and the engine start sequence. And I'm like, that's great. But it's not important, because once you turn an engine on, you don't flip that switch to the later on, to the very end. I mean, it's just there. It doesn't even do it. Now, if you just really, really, really want that experience of turning the engine knob, well, then do it. But you also can use any of these RP48s, like I was showing you earlier, that have the 4 rotaries. You can use those for your engine starts, and have fuel mixtures and all these other things that you can accessorize your engine start sequence with. So there's give and take. So don't just get stuck in one because it looks like a 737. Don't get stuck in that rut, because you're never going to be able to buy GoFlight stuff to make it look like some of these really crazy stuff in here. It's always going to be very generic, and that's a good thing. It's meant to be. So treat it as such. So let's do this. Let's go ahead. Let's bounce out of this. Let's get over to let's see. Let's get back over to our display here, which I think. Oh yeah. All right. Let's do this. There we go. Now we're on there. So let's go ahead. Let's go to where you're going to want to buy all this wonderful, wonderful stuff. So Polypod Software is where you're going to find all of this stuff here in the shop. And I'm actually going to let me get out of the shop up here, because that'll be show you the landing page here. All right. So here you go. So the thing about GoFlight, Polypod Software, they are independent of one another. So, but here's the thing: GoFlight panels with the custom stuff will not work without Polypod. You have to have it. It's the only thing out there that will allow it to work, unless you are really good at programming and can do your own stuff with it. If you can take Sandy Barber's plugin and you can arrange and rearrange all of the assignments inside of the plugin in a text file, and you know what you're doing, well, then be my guest. You can do that and then make it available for everybody. But if you can't, and you need a good place to start and a good place to be able to share files and be able to share those with the community, because that's what it's all about, then go here. Get this. It's easy. It's 30 euros, which makes like 34 or 5 US dollars. You'll pay 60 for a plane, but then you'll pay 60 for a plane and then $1,000 for GoFlight stuff, and then you can't use the GoFlight stuff. So spend the 30 bucks. I hate when I see people get all upset that this is payware. Buy it. If not, then have fun flying with your mouse. Okay, so once you go to the download, you'll have to go and buy it. So once you buy it, add to cart, yada, 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 you will come to where you will install this. Now, I'm not going to personally go through this because I've already gone through the things to do. So here's what I want to point out to you. Do not, under any circumstance, install this under the x86 program file, which that's where it originally will go ahead and throw things in as a new, because it is an interface. So therefore, it's going to throw it in. I don't know why the default's program files. The x86 dictates that there's an administrative passwords, there's read-write permissions. I should say permissions other than passwords. There's permissions that Windows, especially if you're in a home versus pro, will allow you to utilize these folders. But even running this as an administrator, I had tons and tons and tons of problems and issues. So take it out of this. I've actually just gone default and said, you know what? I just want this on my C drive. Don't put it in a folder, but it puts it here in GoFlight folder. That's fine. Just put it on your C drive. Don't set aside folders. Don't put all these complicated folders. Don't put it 3-4 menu folders down. Put it right here. Now, this is all you'll have in it. It's not a lot, but you'll have this all here. Now, once it's done, the GoFlight config comes from the GoFlight support page. So this is basically everything that you would have if you were rolling with FSX. Now, we're not obviously doing anything FSX today. So, we're going to be looking here. So go to software downloads in GoFlight. You can Google this. You just want to literally put GoFlight support drivers, and that will take you to the software downloads here. You may have to go up to support or forums, and then there'll be literally a tab there that says software downloads. It couldn't be any easier. So this is where you'll want to find your config release. Now this right here, this is the GoFlight diode board. So these are more things like if you're getting into actually making your own units where you've got a panel, but yet you're going to use GoFlight to interface with the computer. So maybe you want to buy the rotaries. Maybe you want to buy the switches, and you want to attach those inside of a panel that you've bought. And you want to use these diode boards. You have to connect all the wiring, use all the ribbing, and all the, it's more of a project / hobby to do that kind of stuff, more so than to get it, install it, assign it, and then fly. I'm just not quite there yet, so I can't speak to it. But anyway, this is what you want to grab. So grab the latest config release. Now this will take you down to where you download page, download it, install those. Go ahead and install them right on the C drive, same way that I put the other one. So right here, GoFlight config, that's what I put it in. That's the configuration programs and stuff for all of the MS. This is where also the drivers are. If you plug in your panels and Windows pops up the window and says, hey, we're setting up your thing, hey, unit has been successfully installed and set up, it's complete. You really don't have to do this, but I just did this for just safe regard, because down here there's let's see, where is it? Not the Killjoy, that's not it. I believe it's a fix file. Yeah, here it is, the Windows 8 fixer. So these Windows commands and applications are actually what kind of reset all the drivers. And then by installing this, you get all of your drivers in here. Now, none of this stuff is going to allow you to work with X-Plane. So just install it in here. You can actually delete this folder or uninstall this. You can delete all this after if you want to. I just left mine on there because it's not big, and it's not a big deal. It's not really worrying about it. So from there, let's just stop right there, at least from GoFlight. Let's look at something else that I want you to kind of pay attention to as you get going. So under it will install in your documents folder, and you see I've got a few different things I've kind of got backed up down here. Don't worry about any of this stuff down here. It's all kind of like outside of the, outside. So I've also got a few things up here that I want to point out. So I've got a GoFlight Interface Tool. This is where you'll find a lot of your, this is where you'll find a lot of your stuff from X-Plane to data rest from X-Planes to planes to backups to the settings that actually use. Because what happens when you close down the Interface Tool, it saves all the settings for that plane. And all those planes can be right here. So if we wanted to view this XML document here, basically looks like a web page. If you wanted to look at this, this is all of the settings for all of the planes that I've done, all the ones that I've programmed. This is every panel. This is every bespoke event. This is every LVAR. This is everything that I've ever done with the GoFlight Interface Tool. Now, do you need to know how to read all this? No, not really. But does it help? You better believe it. So these are everything in here, because sometimes I have had to I've actually had to adjust this file to delete some stuff out that I screwed up. But we're not going to call that today. Hopefully by you watching this tutorial series, you're not going to do that. Now, other than that, you don't really need to worry about anything too much in here. We've got global data refs and global commands that's from X-Plane. I have not personally set them up yet. I don't know that I really need to, and I really see anybody else that had done that. I'll have to back up and kind of punt on that. But anyway, save these backup files. Do not ever mess with these for right now. Leave those as they replenish themselves and back up, because once you do screw something up, you can automatically go to the backup file, load that in, and then kind of go back a few steps. But this is what I really wanted to talk about. So inside my X-Plane folders in my C drive, so double click X-Plane. Let's go over to aircraft and then laminar. So right now we're in the 767. I've actually put a GoFlight config folder inside the aircraft. Now, the one thing you want to make sure that you remember, it doesn't read from this folder. No, it does not. It does not read from this folder, overwrites from your settings and your bespokes and everything that's inside the documents folder. But this is where I store things to keep things together with their respective packages. If you ever delete this and reinstall the 7.6, you're going to need to make sure that you bring the GOFLIGHT configs back over and then re-import that back into your GOFLIGHT interface. Now, we're going to talk about the importing of files, of folders, of all those kinds of things. We're going to talk about that, so if that went over your head, don't worry about it. Just make sure that if you want to start with a 7.6 or a plane of this similar, make sure you just put in the plane and then the GOFLIGHT configs, and then add this to your quick access panel. So you do that by right-clicking, and then you can pin to quick access. That way it's always here, no matter what your recent folders down here are, you always have all of your config files and your config folders all sitting right here. This keeps track of everything that you've done. All the custom events you set up, it keeps track of your actual profiles for each individual unit. So as you can see, I've done the 7.6, the 7.5, 738, the 1900D from Coronado, and the 200 King Air from Coronado, and the CRJ, which is still giving me issues, but I'm about done with CRJ from J. Rowland there and X Aviation. So let's go back 767. So this is where everything are. As you can see, once you go down south here, so the GF 166, 123. There are actually 4 units there: the LGT, the MC Pro, the 2 those, and the GFT8. So that's all of my panels right there. All of my files exported out to one. So if something ever happens, or I wind up deleting something, guess what? I can come right back over here. I can import the panel, and then, like a quick flash, I can be right back to where I was, even if I started messing with something and changing things up. So that's what I mean. Keep these all separate. Keep them all together. Keep a nice functional addressed folder. After that, then you're pretty much free reign to do whatever you want to. So from that, folder structures, we've covered the other stuff with getting it installed, where to install it, getting the GOFLIGHT support drivers. So now let's go ahead and let's look very quickly at just the interface tool itself, what it looks like, start it up, what it looks like with a plane, a few other things like that. Now, our second video is going to be actually breaking into, being able to set aside your panels, being able to start getting your data refs and your command files located from the plane that you're wanting to work on, how to get all of that stuff up and running with the GOFLIGHT interface tool, all of those kind of things here and there. That's all going to be things that we're going to be kind of looking at here. So I'll tell you what, let's move that back off. Let's go back to our screen before, because I've got an enlarged version of that screen. It's going to be a little bit pixelated, but that's just because I'm blowing it up, so you guys hopefully will be able to see it. So here it is. It's not a controllable window there. So now that we're on this, this is what this main interface looks like. Now, don't let it freak you out, but there's a lot of stuff on here. I know there is, but this is your main status page as it is. So you've got all of your GOFLIGHT deals. Just make sure that you have everything hooked up. This gives you a little green light letting you know, hey, that we've read all these instruments and everything seems to be a go. Everything's hooked up to your original profile, so everything's good. I've got one of these. I've got 2 RP48s. Yes, I've got 1 GF46, which was that transponder unit that I haven't really done anything with. Then we have the LGT2, which is the landing gear and trim system, the TQ6, which is our throttles, the T8, which was the little flip, look like they're light controls, and then 4 of the 146s. So now that you've got all those, you can see also that they all correspond to the top. So what I do not have, the EFIS, the WP6, the diode boards, the 450, the 45, I don't even know what the 450 and R are. The P8, which is the same as the T8, except it's it has a detent in the middle. So if you wanted to have one switch that controlled your taxi lights off, taxi lights dim, and then taxi lights bright, which the 737s do have, that would be the perfect panel set to get. You can have on and offs, but they also have a switch in the middle. So a little bit more of a detailed switch panel. Then you've got your RP48s as well. Now all this stuff has been assigned already, so let's go back to our status page. Now X-Plane here, the DRE mimic mode, that has to be checked. That ensures that the interface is connected to X-Plane. and it is registering, hey, we are seeing X-Plane and we are ready to mimic what you do and what you assign data refs to. You may say, okay, what's a data ref? Slow down there, FTG, slow down. Data ref is this is going to sound stupid, but it is a pathway to a reference of data. X-Plane models physics and deflections on the actual outside of the plane to engines to temperatures. Everything itself is a reaction inside of its physics program. So if you wanted to, I want to monitor engine N2, and when we get to N2, 20%, I want this light to come on. Okay, so there's like 3 data refs going on there. You've got your engines, you've got the N2 of the engine, and you've got 20%. So each one of those has a specific line of code that is a reference to a particular piece of data. So what you're doing is you're assigning the GOFLIGHT stuff a piece of data code that it is constantly looking for inside of X-Plane as it's just charting through these data refs. And they move at an unbelievable pace. It's ridiculous how much is actually going through X-Plane besides just the graphics of it. It's ridiculous. So what it's doing is it's constantly sifting through that. So think about it this way. Think about you've got a flour, big bowl of flour, and you put 1 diamond in the middle of it. And then you're like, okay, well now go find that diamond. But we want you to use a teaspoon to sift through all the flour until you find the diamond. You're like, yeah, no, that's it. Well, depending on how big the diamond is, you may want to do that, but you may not. And so what the interface does is say, okay, now we want you to pour that flour over the sifter, and we want you to throw it around, and we want you to sift it around. After you've sifted it around for a little bit, you start to sift through all the flour, and all of a sudden the diamond is revealed because you sifted through all the stuff that you don't. What this interface tool does is it helps you sift through all of the random stuff that you don't really need to know or care about and gets to the diamond in the middle of it all. And that's this particular data ref. I want the landing lights to go on when I push this switch up. So what the interface does here is help you find what piece of code that landing lights is attached to, and then lets you insert that into the GOFLIGHT unit at whatever switch you want to, completely custom to you, and then allows you to assign it to just that switch. And then you want the light to come on. Here's another piece of code that controls the light of the landing. So when it comes on, I want this light to come on, and then boom, it happens. So that's what this is. That's what it does. It is not a free-for-all for you to say, okay, now I'm ready to do, so I've installed it, so now everything should just work. Nope. So welcome to video 1. We are going to, as we get in later, let's cover one thing before we cut this. Aircraft mode. This is the other thing you want to kind of keep track of. The aircraft mode generic 767-300 ER underscore X-Plane 11. That is the name of the aircraft file. So if you went into the 737 ER and looked at that particular folder, that would be the name of the .acf file. That is the aircraft file. So you can see as the import wizard, we're going to cover that in the next tutorial. And also the data refs text, commands text, object data refs, aircraft data refs, global, all of these things right here. Check the say whether or not you are finding the right files in the right places. So if you're looking for data refs, commands, if there's anything in objects and aircrafts. So let me show you this real quick. Now we're going to look at this more in depth, but this just kind of give you a taste of what you're kind of looking for on this. The interface tool, you have to tell it where to find all these things. So the global and the global commands I've not put in because most of these planes don't even utilize those codes. They utilize their own stuff. So we're going to really break into the next couple of tutorials really what you're looking for to give you the best, or at least what I found to be the best result without getting too deep inside of the coding and how to work with the detective, which is right here. So you will see this and it's very awesome, but it's also a little much maybe on the first one. But I'll start working on another one here very soon. So after this, the one thing you want to keep track of is where all these checkboxes are, because that's going to dictate how much information you have for the GOFLIGHT interface tool to be able to read from. So if you don't have any data refs, you don't have any commands, you don't have any data refs, if you've basically got X's all the way down the board except for private data refs or DRE data refs, you're going to be you're not going to really have a lot. So the next one, we're going to show you how to when it pulls up these, actually, let's go back to the full screen too. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. because these right here are some data refs that came in from the actual plane itself. And then we also have commands, which are some things that came in from the plane itself for the 767. Now, a lot of the good things with this one is that a lot of the private data refs are from the plane itself. There is a lot of them. So we'll just kind of look at some of these right here. These were some that were kind of put in before that I have not really necessarily messed with. So, you know, don't get too involved with that, but your object data refs and your private data refs, there's actually a lot there. So we're going to kind of break into that and look at that a little bit more. Other than that, that's all there is. Settings, the log, this just meant if you got a problem with something, it'll tell you when it is. It'll tell you when something went wrong. Most of these tabs are pretty self-explanatory. The settings is the only other tab here that you really may need to kind of look at. Button hold times, these, I wouldn't mess with these until you start having a problem. If you start having a problem with something, then we can start looking at, I'm not going to be offering 24/7 support on these comments either. Please let me know if they helped, or if you would want to look at something else. I can either, you know, make another video on something in particular, or addressed a particular issue. But if you say, hey, my GF146 doesn't work, well, there is a support forum for that. We're going to do that here at the end of this video. And the air client short name, this is going to be whatever your files are going to be named as. So you can name them whatever. I would just leave it default, whatever it pulls up here. But there is a way to short name this so that your files will always work with lots of different planes. So like 757, we would change the short name to 757 and then keep that the same through all three variations of the aircraft. That way your panels work with all three variations of the aircraft as well. Write delay and command delay is really for an autopilot. You never want to set these off to 0. You want to give them a little bit of a buffer. We'll talk about that more in our second video here, because that kind of breaks into this. One thing you always want to do is always have this one checked. Monitor the DRE private data refs, because those private data refs are references of the data inside of planes that necessarily don't make it on a datarefs.txt file or a commands.txt file. That's just a text file. So there's a lot of private things that are going inside the plane, but the detective kind of unlocks all that. So it's kind of like the key to Pandora's box of these planes. It kind of already goes through all that. So so that's why I said don't get caught up on getting all the data refs from everything possible, you know, and say, oh, write the developer and say, oh, I need a list of your 2,000 data refs. You know, I want to assign a landing light switch. There's much easier ways to do it. So we're going to look at that. Save your settings, because these will save. If you don't save them, then I don't really know if they do or not. But other than that, the settings, log, and the status is that. Everything else deals with the panels individually of themselves. So button hold time, again, is like when you hold a button down for the off or on, that decides how many milliseconds you have to hold that before the light comes on. Write delay and command delay, like I said, were more rotary to displays. So a lot of times your panels on the GF146, which are the radio stat pages, the COM12, NAV12, those panels, in addition to the MCP Pro, are the other ones that are a little bit tougher to deal with when it comes to that. That's the only thing. So, you know, just paying attention to and these right here in particular. But just don't do anything to them yet. So other than that, there's two things you always want to make sure you do. And I cannot make this any more clear. Make sure that you do not start this up before X-Plane. Make sure that you shut this down before X-Plane. So X-Plane needs to be the first thing you load, and it needs to be the last thing that you close. Okay? First to open, last to close. You want the interface tool to be you want it to be the life of the party, okay? So you want to have X-Plane up and running in a cold and dark situation, and then you want to start and invite the interface tool to come connect to the party, okay? That's what you want to do first. So if you want to, think about it like this. GOFLIGHT instruments need to be plugged into USB, and it doesn't matter what order, but just kind of keep them the same every time. If it stays in your cockpit the whole entire time, it stays in the same place, then fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. Just go ahead and unplug and plug everything in, get it a fresh, clean start inside of X-Plane. Then start X-Plane after that, so that everything's been cleared, it's all working. Start up X-Plane, get a fresh, clean start of that, and then start up your interface tool. And that should alleviate most of the issues. Most of the issues that I had were trying to start the interface tool in and out of cold and dark versus engines were running and I did something wrong, and then I was like, oh, let me just restart it. It never really works, okay? It never really works. It's still some finickiness to it, but just remember, keep things light, keep things small. Explore these panels a little bit before you really start digging into them. Look around the aircraft and find out what are the things that you utilize the most. That's what I built my pedestal on. What are the things that I'm going to use a lot? People say, well, I don't really want any of the nav stuff or the comm stuff because it doesn't apply to me. I don't really use them. I just want to fly. Okay, well then don't buy those. I am going to be flying a lot on Pilot Edge, VATSIM, so I'm going to be using those radios, and I'm going to be using them a lot. So that's why I have them. Other than that, you may want to use other things. So as this first video, I hope this has been a good setup to what this tutorial series is going to be. I'm going to immediately go ahead and start working from this point into the next part 2 of this. We will be looking at getting the detective up and running now that we've got a folder structure set, we've got everything installed, so we're literally ready to start looking at a plane and say, okay, now I want to start assigning some things to these GoFlights that is not pertaining to what Sandy Barber did or some guy on Meta Cafe, Process, Coffee, whatever did 5-6 years ago that is really no longer valid. So this is the new way to go, and the support there as well. Let me go ahead and throw this up too. Do not, and I repeat, please do not badger me on these comments for technical support, okay? Because I just can't give it. I'm not going to give it. I'm not paid to give it. I am doing something to give back to the X-Plane community as a whole. So please, please allow it to be that, okay? The easiest way, and this absolutely amazing support here, is go down to, once you get to the welcome here, let me get out of the shop. Go down to support, go down to the forums. Right here is where everything's at, okay? You could do anything. You could do anything in this. Just go down to here and then search. Search MCP Pro not working, and then you can see what other people have had a problem with. Okay, that's the only really thing that you really need to worry about. Aside from that, that's really all that I can really cover in this first one. So let's get the intros out. Let's get the directory set. Let's get all of your programs installed. Let's show you where all the useful information is. Let's set up how to approach this. That's really what this video is about. So next one, like I said, 5 minutes ago, the next one is going to cover a lot more things. So I hope you enjoy this. We're going to start looking at detective. We're going to start looking at how to find those data refs, how to get those data refs inside of GOFLIGHT, the interface tool itself, how to get those text files reading, and how to how to look for them and look and see where they're at. After that, then by part 3 or 4, we'll go ahead and start looking at getting in here and actually assigning some things to the buttons and assigning some things. And I'm going to try to do these in 20 to 30 minute intervals so that there's not too much information, but it's something that if you need to scroll back, it's pretty easy to find by scrolling back. All these will also go into a playlist as well. So don't worry, don't worry about not being able to find something, or I'll have everything labeled and descriptions will be laid out as well. So if you don't know exactly what's on there, please refer back to the descriptions. Like again, I said, I think I said earlier in the beginning, special thanks to Polybot Software for the wonderful software they've done. Also, you will not find much support with GoFlight. They don't actively support X-Plane, which is a shame. But I'm hoping by doing this, I'm not pushing support for GoFlight, but they do make good generic panels, okay? And understand that they are not flight deck simulations, and they don't claim to be. So for what it is, the genericity of their panels, and for the fact that they work with just about anything, I've not really, the only thing that I've said is going to be a limitation is when the A320 from Flight Factor comes out, we're going to have to utilize a push-pull function, and it does not have, they do not unfortunately have a Airbus equivalent to their autopilot, which is a shame. I really hope that they would do push-pull stuff, but maybe in time, who knows. But anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, thanks again to Rob as well. He's actually, you can see it right there. GoFlight Interface Tutorial Part 2 of 3. Now that is from, those are from Rob. I believe it's Askenborough or Assenborough, I think is his name. But anyway, he's done a great set on FSX and P3D, but they are not equivalent to X-Plane. X-Plane is simpler and complicated all in the same. It's just a different state to drive in. It's a different country. It's just totally different than X-Plane. So just remember that. And otherwise, like I said, keep the support questions here. I'm going to direct those support questions to here, because the thing is, if you have that problem, so does 10 other people that are wondering where the same answer is. They're just not, they're not able at the time, or they don't want to ask up and ask the same question. But I assure you, if one person has that question, there are 10 others that have the same exact question. So please put those back into the GoFlight support forums so that anybody coming back to that support forums can see other problems that you've had. If you kind of keep those out in your own forums, then nobody else can have them, and nobody else knows what problems that you have experienced yourself. So please do that for me. Other than that, it's been real fun. It's always a fun doing these videos and any of these kind of tutorial videos. So I hope that you got something out of it. I hope, if anything, it gets you off on a good, clean start. And remember, life is a journey. Travel it well. We'll be coming back with part 2 and 3 here very, very, very soon. As soon as we really record those up here this afternoon, we may just do one every couple of days here. Let them breathe on YouTube and roll them out to you guys. So hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll be back with. Don't forget to subscribe here to this. You want to see more X-Plane live sims, especially with the GoFlight stuff. You want to, ask general questions. I'd be glad to answer them in live stream. And you're more than welcome, invited to come hang out with us there in the live streams. Absolutely fun. We're flying all these planes here with all the GoFlight stuff you saw. Plus, all your rudders and your yokes and all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I've done a lot of work to these planes. I want to show them off, and also want to help you be able to do the same exact thing. So thanks, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share these out to your friends. Share them out to your fellow boards and your fellow forum member boards there, if you're especially X-Plane VAs. If you got no guys that have these things, if you're on the org, please share this stuff. Let other guys see this video. I'll be posting in the GoFlight forum section there. Hey, starting to work on the tutorial videos. Get them up. Let's get this stuff out. Let's get the information out there. Let's make X-Plane a formidable force to listen to some of the demands that we may have. More on that here in the second tutorial. I'll tell you how we can be a force to reckon with in this particular GoFlight world. So anyway, that's it from me. Remember, life's a journey. Travel well, guys. We'll see you here on the next video.